Hi, this is Human Essence, and in today's video we have part 5 of the deep dive review of Wendi Adelson's book, This Is Our Story. If you've missed the first 4 parts, you can listen to them now. I'll be making a playlist of this deep dive. And we're up to chapter 13, which is about the character Rosa. And we see that she's once again writing in her diary, but now she's writing secretly. She hides her diary for fear that Senora Cuenca and Martin, her son, will find her and beat her again. She's always scared, but she feels that writing in the diary is the only part that she has left of herself, and she couldn't go on without it. It's been 3 months since her friend Anna has died, and Anna was not only pregnant, but Rosa had seen that she had been bleeding when she died, and she wonders what Martin had done to her. Even Senor Cuenca had gasped when she found Anna dead, but she'd forced Rosa to go to work anyway. When Rosa asked questions about her friend, Senora Cuenca had slapped her and kicked her. She called her names like Indias. Martin calls Rosa fea, which means ugly, and he threatens to do the same to her as he did to Anna if she mentions anything. She's now terrified of Martin, and she's imagining what her mother and Maria, her little sister, are doing in Argentina. She doesn't know where Anna's body is, and she fears for her soul, and she fears for what Rosa's becoming herself. She's afraid of forgetting about Anna, that she once had a friend like that. She saw Senora Cuenca lie to Anna's grandparents and tell them that Anna was in a car accident, and she stands over Rosa and makes her call her mother and say that she'll kill her mother and Maria if she says a word about how her life truly is in Florida. She was allowed to shower in cold water twice a week, but then she was told that everything she does in the house to clean is wrong, and that she can only shower in the yard now. One day, she tries to ask Senor Cuenca about going to school, and he spits in her face and tells her how much she's cost the family already. The next chapter, chapter 14, is about Mila again. And Mila is the teenage girl, the 17-year-old from Slovakia. And she's fallen in love in Atlanta. Instead of the housing above the restaurant, she goes home with Chico after work. Chico and his brother, Jose, live together. They're Colombian. She's not a fan of the brother, Jose, who lives with them. He tried to get in bed with her while Chica was out, and she got really mad and went outside, but she didn't have her clothes on. She had no money, and it was bad neighborhood, and she was locked out because Chico hadn't given her a key yet. So she had to beg to come back in, and then Jose kissed her on the mouth and called her a nasty name, which I'm not going to repeat in this review. She's constantly imagining movies, and as if her life was a part of a movie, because she's really familiar with them. The workers all get 2 5-minute breaks, or else their pay is docked, and Chico's the one who keeps track of the pay. But she gets extra breaks because he takes her into the broom closet, and sometimes he gives her chocolate. She cleans for him, and she works even harder if he criticizes how she cleans in his house. She does not want to go back to Slovakia when her visa ends in 6 months. But Chico tells her not to worry about it. He'll work that out for her. That's very ominous. We sing a sort of pimping situation unfolding there. So now we have chapter 15 about Lili. And I found this chapter to be very odd, and there might, I'd be interested if anybody'd like to say what they think of it in the comments. So there's a part at the beginning of this which is a dream that Lili is having. And we're to understand that she's had this dream in the past, but it's coming out now because of the stress of her life. So as you recall, she's worrying about losing the funding for the work that she's finding very purposeful right now, giving her an identity. And when she was afraid of losing it, her husband, the English professor, Josh, who she refers to as very, very sweet, said, well, maybe that would be a good time to have a baby. And she eventually said she would, but it wasn't something that she really wanted. So his answer, like, maybe you can save your funding, and if not, you could have a good time to have a baby. It's very, if you think about it, if a man said, well, he was losing his job and he was afraid for it, and you said, well, why don't you just like take a break now and take care of a baby? If you change the genders, you can see how dismissive it is. So it felt like a pressure to the character. But here's the dream that she has. And what's underlying this dream never comes up again anywhere else in the book. So I found it so odd. And there's a part of it that's really odd. So it's a dream sequence where she's hiding from an uncle under a desk. And he comes upstairs calling for her. There's a party going on downstairs, and she hears his footsteps, thump, 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 and he calls for her. Liliana, where are you? And he comes up. She's afraid of him. He comes upstairs, and she looks at him, and his eyes are pools of oozing blood. So apparently this is a dream that she had, and she's learned that it's based on a childhood trauma. So this is the creepiest part of the book, as far as I was concerned, and especially in light of, this book does come up, not this part of the book, but this book does come up, and in light of, what happened to the way that Dan Markel died, this thing of this, anyway, it's very disturbing. But there's no other mention of what's underlying this anywhere in the book. So it's just sort of hinted at. And so then she knows that she knows what it's about, and she knows that she's having this now because of her fear that her immigration work is going to end because of the funding. She feels that the time is running out, and she's becoming moody with Josh, and she refers to she's becoming moody with my sweet Josh. And she knows he wants to be supported, but she feels miles away since the baby talk. So she was going through the mail. So she explains that she's the person who goes through the mail. So she wasn't opening anything that she shouldn't, because this is the agreement they had. And she comes across a letter from Cornell, and she looks into it, and she sees it's from the English department at Cornell in response to a job request by Josh. And the head of department is interested in him and speaks really well of him. And Lili has a fear that he's looking for a way out of Florida, and he's looking for away from her. And she files the letter away, and she kind of files it away in her mind, and she feels like she doesn't know what to do with the information. So she's spending her days worrying about her husband and secretly wondering if he's secretly planning to leave her. And she's also afraid of losing the funding. And then she talks a little bit about some of her clients. So she talks about some of the teenagers who come in, and she talks about a woman who had great faith in her marriage, but she was an immigrant, and her husband just left the house and came there with police and said that wasn't his wife, and tried to take everything. And the police actually referred the woman to Lili. And she was so taken with this woman's strength and faith, and thought, well, she wanted to be there for people like her, and she's resolved that no matter what, she's going to keep doing this work, even if she has to do it for free. So if we look at this as a whole, we have Rosa, who's in absolute horrifying situation, and I think knows it now. And then we have Mila, who's kind of not picking up on what's going on around her because she's in this world of the movies, and she thinking she's being in love with Chico, and she just, doesn't realize the situation that she's in. And next we have Lili and this dream sequence, and that she's becoming, she describes herself as 35 years old, but in a way it's like she's discovering her identity. And as she's doing it, both there's a complete lack of communication in this couple. So when Josh says to her, well, if you can get the funding, and I'm afraid if you don't get the funding, you won't be happy in Tallahassee, or I'm sorry, Hiawassee Springs, you won't be happy in Hiawassee, and you'll want to leave me. And he's not telling her that he's applying to another job. She's afraid if she speaks up about not wanting a baby, that the relationship will be over. She doesn't bring up, look, you applied for another job, what's going on here? He doesn't say, I wanted to have a baby. She doesn't say, well, that's not what I want to do right now because I want to, focus on what I'm doing. Is this okay with you? Because if it's not, we need to talk about, they don't talk to each other. It's just as both fearful of losing the other one, not talking to each other. And yeah, it sounds like, middle-aged people, if she's 35, I don't know how old he is. And then we have these teenagers. So this is kind of first world problems, but they're developing as people, and there's a disconnect between them. So it's very sad, very, very sad, very sad situation, and an uncommunicative marriage where it seems like neither of them have the skills to actually have an open conversation, an open relationship where they speak to each other. So much fear of losing each other. Yeah, it's unfortunate. All right, thanks for listening. And next I'll be doing part 6.